In this module you learned how to acquire a lease, how to renew a lease, and how to release a lease. On a Blob you can also change the lease ID with the change lease async method. This can be useful if a lease ID is passed from one component to another one. Then that second component can change the lease ID to ensure that the first component does not have access anymore. All these operations, renew, release, and change, require a lease ID. But there is another operation that does not require a lease ID, and that operation is called break. On a Blob, you can call the break lease async method, and as you can see, no lease ID is required for this method. The time span that it takes as a parameter represents the amount of time to allow the current release to remain. It can be between 0 and 60 seconds. This call that you see here with 0 seconds breaks the lease immediately and unlocks the Blob. Instead of passing a time span, you can also pass null to the break lease async method. When you do this, an infinite lease is broken immediately, and a fixed duration lease will break after the remaining lease period. And of course, the broken lease cannot be renewed. If you try to renew a broken lease, you will receive an exception. If you are interested in the remaining time, just grab the return value from the break lease async method. Acquiring an infinite lease and breaking a lease is also possible in the Azure portal. So let's go to the Azure portal. Here I've opened the blade of the coffee videos container. Now let's just select the skateboarder MP4 file and you can see you can acquire a lease here. So let's click on Acquire Lease. Now you have acquired an infinite lease and you can see here the lease ID. Let's close this pop-up here. As you can see, the lease status is now leased on the skateboarder MP4 file. When you select that file again, you can of course break the lease in the Azure portal. And as you can see, when the lease is broken, the selected blob can be deleted or modified. Yes, of course, I want to continue. And now the skateboarder MP4 blob can be modified again. Now let's wrap up what you have learned in this module.